Nick, what's up, man? Thanks for joining.
Dude, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm
Dude, this is
excited.
going to be awesome. I'm so excited. So, Nick Phillips, we met at Brian Pruitt's Live Elevated Experience, where we essentially just gathered 40 guys, did a bunch of stuff that is very uncomfortable, and then pulled off the masks, went behind the scenes a little bit on mindset, mental side, and then we talked longevity and health. And so thankful that I got to link up with Nick at the event and collaborate a little bit here. Just really, really, really inspired by his consistency, his discipline, his drive, what he's building, his brand, and everything he's doing. So, Nick, why don't you just kind of talk about where you're at right now in your journey in terms of building what you're building, how you got here, and we'll go from there.
Dude, that is a very loaded question because literally this morning I woke up and like my mind's racing. It's running. I immediately, as soon as I got out of bed, I'm thinking of it's crazy, but my mind was like going through a Rolodex of all the things I'm trying to work on. I have a bunch of, things up in the air that I'm trying to juggle, and I'm actually getting to a point where I'm going, okay, what do I need to remove here? What is
Mhm.
taking focus? Blah, blah, blah. So to answer your question in a more concrete way, I have a fitness business where I coach people through like a kettlebell training. Most of the time, my clients are trying to train from home. They're not trying to go to the gym and do the push pull leg split, the full body thing. They're not into the bodybuilding stuff. They want fast functional fitness, you know? And so I actually found myself at a similar spot, racked up with injuries, trying to cut fat, all the things a few years ago. And kettlebells were, my dogs are going crazy right now. Can you hear that?
Yeah,
Cool. Cool. Perfect. Just wanted to make sure we
good.
weren't.
No, we're good.
So yeah, so I've got a kettlebell coaching business. I've got an app where I have some subscribers that, they jump on and they do the, self-guided through the workouts that I've created, and then others are one-on-one with me where I go in and I make a specific program for them for either 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. Sometimes we look at a whole 6-month program for specific one-on-one people. Do a little bit of nutrition, mostly like habit building. A lot of what I've found in my industry is the people that are coming to me really don't have a strong foundation for fitness habits. You know, Often they're eating like crap, not moving, not really hydrating. Sometimes their rest is good, sometimes it's really not. So we try to dial in the three big ones: movement, nutrition, recovery. And so, yeah, that's what I'm building right now is that whole side of things. I've started dipping my toes a little bit into the community side of things. I've got an event in April that I'm doing called eh, the Spring Reset, hosted by Coastal Wellness Collective. That's sort of the brand face right now that we're hosting these events through. And it's a pretty interesting event. It's basically a social or a wellness social. So 4-hour long event, people show up, they buy tickets ahead of time and they participate in like 5 different like body weight workouts, shadow boxing, body weight hit, mobility, et cetera, breath work. And then there's a row of vendors that we have called Recovery Row: cupping specialists, massage therapists, physical therapists, chiropractor, like a stretching lab kind of situation going on. And then Vendor Village selling, that's open to the public, but they're selling, health and wellness product, beauty products, all sorts of things.
Wow, that is
And
awesome,
then on
man.
top of all that is the social media layer, right? But who's not doing social media these days?
Right. I mean, you have to. It's the marketing side that we're all stuck with, and
Absolutely.
that's why we're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Well, look, I mean, that is incredible. I mean, all in all, you want people to get better. You are just striving to help people become better versions of themselves, which is what we're all
Abs-
trying to do, right? And it's
Absolutely.
incredible, man. So we like to say, my mentor, Ben Newman, he's the GOAT. He says we can only lead people to the level of discipline in which we live. So obviously there's a background to,
Wow. Well
your
said.
journey to where you've gotten to this point of staying consistent, even in the marketing, even with socials, even with your workouts, being a dad, everything. So what was your turning point in your life? Or were you always like this from the time you were a young kid? Or did you kind of say like that, that switch flipped and you said, okay, this is who I am. This is my standard. This is what I live to.
So, no, I've not always been like this. I have had seasons like this. I would say the first season of really dialed in consistency that I had was actually 2016, like the latter half of the year. I actually joined the army, and that's where a lot of my discipline was built. I always say before I joined the army, I was a little boy, and then after the army, the army made me into a man in a lot of ways. And then after that, acclimated back to civilian life. And a few years of civilian life left me soft. And I was fighting some injuries too, so
Mhm.
that was a bit of a challenge for me to stay fit while also trying to navigate injuries. 4 or 5 years prior to that, and so man, I found myself what I like to coin at the end of myself a couple times, before really getting in a consistent flow with my training, with my journaling, with my rest. Yeah, so definitely wasn't always like this and have had seasons where I've been better than others. I think it's a consistency is one of those things that once you experience it, you realize it's not this. And it's not even like if this is 0 and this is 100, it's not showing up at 100 every day.
No way.
Consistency for me is showing up every day,
Mhm.
regardless of whether I've got 5%, 7%, 25%, 100%, 75. Some days I'm showing up. Average days, 75 to 95% in the tank, ready to go. I'm a dad, business owner. There's a lot of things like volume for my attention and my energy. And so if I can just show up, that's half the battle of consistency,
Right.
you know? Just putting myself in the space to be fit, to get my steps in, to eat properly, And one of the ways, I hope I'm not rambling too much here. One of the ways that I have like hacked my life to make sure that I am consistent is I use the heck out of calendar alerts. I have calendar alerts for everything. When I wanted to start getting better sleep, because going to sleep consistently late, we're talking 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and having to wake up at 6 or 7,
Yep.
4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, not doing it for me. I started setting an alarm on my phone. I had an alarm actually that would go off every night at 8:45 p.m. And I kept this alarm on my phone for like 3 months. And the alarm label was protect your sleep. Because what I realized is those hours between like 9 and 1 a.m., I wasn't doing anything productive to crush out some more work. I was
Right.
staying up, watching TV, doom scrolling,
Consuming.
doing nothing, you know? And so 8:45 p.m. for about 3 months, a alarm would come on my phone, protect your sleep. And I wasn't going to bed at 8:45, but I was heading to bed. 8:45 is when I would wrap things up. I'm putting my phone away. I'm, cleaning dishes. I'm heading to the shower, maybe getting in bed, maybe sitting on the couch reading a book for a little bit,
Yep.
turning all the lights down. I
Yes.
start protecting my sleep. I start that nightly like get ready for bed. And yeah, so that, one example of hacking my life with calendar alerts.
Yeah. So what you said there is a major, major secret tool that performance is driven in is the cues, the visual cues, right?
Yeah.
At some point, you find yourself in that position, the toughest part of your day to get going, get motivated, right? What we like to do is we talk about, setting your alarm and having a label, but you're doing this throughout the whole day, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I had a student of mine, he first I knew about the red light and dimming the lights and getting the blue light off just to kind of tell your brain it's time for bed. And then he starts putting it on a schedule. So at 8:30 every day, and I can't change it because I don't want to turn it off. But at 8:30 every night that it comes on. It's like, oh,
Wow.
all right, eyeballs, time to rest. Like you said, get the book out, get the kids down, get the shower, get the dishes. Incredible. And, one thing I want to touch on too is that when you talked about getting out the army, that whole story is like an entire, in a nutshell, what it's like for the athletes coming out of the post, I don't know how you say it, post playing days, just that transition in identity, right? That's a lot of what I work with now is not only performing at a high level with the athletes, but that slump of finding the new identity because we've all been there. It's like the high, you are this person. You
Yep.
are, who you are, and then boom,
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
who am I now? And
Yep.
we just get into that slump. So it's crucial. Like you said, now we have systems. You have a system
Yep.
to make sure that you stay motivated, you stay in that 75 to 90% range, and implementing that at a young age before it happens.
Yep.
So, two things you touched on there absolutely aligned with, everything we do in mental performance coaching, everything that, you need to transition to coaching it to other people now.
Yep.
So that's
Yep.
awesome. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, doing this, obviously you could easily just be a guy that says, okay, I'm going to stay in shape. I'm going to do the work myself. I'm going to get it done and go about my life. But you didn't choose that. You chose to empower other people and get coaching. So what got you into the coaching space now that you've aligned your mission with, who you are, who you want to be?
That's a great question. And it's the heart behind coaching that matters to me. Since getting out of the army, I've done a ton of things. I've owned a landscaping business. I was a partner in a food truck, was a day trader for a while. All of those things, while I found some level of satisfaction in them, when I looked at what I was doing and then imagined myself still doing it 10 years down the road, I went, no way, I don't want to be like, not that it's not that landscaping isn't good and, adding value to people's homes and things that's cool, and day trading is cool and it's a skill that once you have, you never really lose it. And being a partner in a food truck, you're feeding people. It's like those things are good, but I didn't feel any reward really beyond the money I was making. So the reward was monetary and it was cool and I could do some cool things with the money I was making, but just like the daily grind wasn't, and mentally just drained. You know,
Exhausted.
I
Yeah.
yeah, just
Mm.
just absolutely I come to a point in my life where I was like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? Who am I? I just felt lost. And so I had no discipline, I had no fitness routine or anything like that, and I committed to 1, 3 strength training sessions a week, and then 2 daily steps. And the daily steps is really what anchored me because it was something that was happening every day.
Yeah.
I was getting outside and I was going for a walk. It was my first thing I was doing in the morning, the 3 Ws. Wake up, drink a glass of water, go for a walk. Changed my whole life. I got real solid consistency. And so
Let
out
me
of
pause
that,
right there real quick. When you're walking, are you doing it in silence? Do you have a podcast, music? What is your go-to?
my go-to is silence. My go-to is like me. Sometimes it's me in prayer.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just me walking, not thinking about anything.
Okay.
But there are times where I will mix it up and throw a podcast in my ears.
Yeah.
Really, never if I use music, it's on a run or, in a workout. But even
Workout.
then, I
Yeah.
don't do that all the time. A lot of times it's like, I call it raw dogging life. Like I just, no external input, just me and the work, me and the walk, you know? It's funny, there's a lot of times where, like, I feel like I'm walking, but, like, it's almost like God's walking me like a dog, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, he's teaching me in those moments and talking to me, and I'm able to just, really focus on my gratitude. If I'm there's nothing like walking at that sunrise hour and, like, the birds are
Mhm.
chirping, else is really out,
Oh,
you know, stop drinking, no smoking weed, getting steps in every day, working out consistently, doing all of those things, like, healed my mental health. I was dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety and anger and just I was kind of, like I said, like, at the end of myself and getting consistent, having discipline to show up for myself at a physical level every day and do the little things every day,
Mhm.
my, so many things just got better and my life got better. I transformed via consistently showing up for myself physically.
That I mean, it's amazing how, you and I, like so many others, and a lot of guys that I've met through Brian and Live Elevated have been in that same exact spot. For me, like you said, it was every morning, 5 a.m., cold, rainy, dark, walk, positive podcasts, great energy, positive, grateful things to think about,
Right.
straight to the garage, just 30 minutes of getting a sweat in, just enough to get the heart rate up. And it was about 4 months of
Yeah.
just, at one I'll say after about a month, I said, "Okay, I'm hooked. Like, I'm starting to
Yeah.
see something here. I'm getting out of the rut." But 4 months of that, I remember walking in, I tell this story a lot, is I walked into my sister's house and, we're just going to visit or whatever, and they, they're all concerned, like, "Big bro, like, he's in a slump," like, and they said, "How you doing?" And I remember vividly looking at them and just saying, "I'm back." Like, uh,
Nice.
I'm me. Like, I feel like it again, 4 months later. And then I was hooked. Like,
Yeah.
the motivation won't start before you start. The motivation comes after you feel differently. You feel that nervous system regulating. You feel your energy increasing, your gratitude, everything.
Yeah.
So that's the most difficult part. So, on that, I know what I would say, but if you were talking to Nick Phillips right now, what exactly would you say to that version of you that was in that slump, that was in that depression, in that anxiety, and say, "Hey, you got to trust me on this. You need blank, blank, blank right now to get yourself going." What would you tell 'em?
Start walking every day. Start hydrating more. Start going to bed earlier. Cut off your friends that are wanting to go drinking every weekend, that are being debaucherous. Love them to death. Maybe don't cut them off, but establish very firm boundaries. You're spending entirely too much time with people that are actually not helping you elevate. They're pulling you down. Love them, no judgment, but you have to understand that who you surround yourself with is who you're going to be in 5 years. So, do you want their results? No. Firm boundaries. Spending way too much time. Love them, call them, check on them, but you've got a race to run. You've got things to do. You're a husband, you're a business owner. You've got too many things that you're responsible for to be wasting your time. So, again, walk every day, hydrate, protect your sleep, and audit your circle.
That's a great one. And yeah, you said it too. Part of it's your environment. I mean, your environment has to be set up to give you success and give you the highest percentage of performance that you can possibly create. And that's on you
Right.
to create the environment. You
Yep.
can't control everything in your environment, but you can absolutely influence it.
Yes.
So awesome, man. Let's shift to the business side real quick because
Okay.
I see a lot of times people they could be changing the world, but they are so deathly afraid of those limiting beliefs and the judgment of putting themselves out on socials,
Yeah.
plain and simple. I've been there. Have you felt that way too? And then what was your journey in terms of saying, "You know what? I'm going to do what I need to do, get on the socials, post every day." And what was the outcome from finally letting that happen?
So, I think part of the journey that a lot of people struggle with when they're trying to decide whether or not they're going to get on social media and start posting consistently is a wrestle with their identity. You know, a lot of us, we're multifaceted beings, but we're told to niche down really heavy, and that scares us. This is what I'll say. I agree with niching down very heavy, especially early on. But as you get consistent, don't be afraid to show some of the other things you're interested in outside of whatever your niche is, because people will on socials, they're going to probably find you for their interest. Interest media is what it's being called now, but they're not going to stay with you because of your interest. They're going to stay with you because they get to know you and the things that you like, and they're like, even if they don't like it, they're interested in it.
Yeah, I know.
So the easiest thing that I did when I started was niche down very heavy into kettlebell training. And that took some of the pressure off of like, okay, I don't have to show some of the other dorky things I'm into. Like I like reading, fantasy fiction books like Harry Potter, and you go up from there, Stormlight Archive and all sorts I can name a bunch of niche, magic and wizards and all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean?
Picture it now like a social community was like Harry Potter and kettlebells, and it's like
Yeah, yeah,
you're front and center. Is like thousands of people who would just talk about Harry Potter while you do kettlebell workouts.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'd be in it.
Not
I'd be in it.
Yeah, so for me, not my ideal. You know what I mean?
Right, 100%.
Like I don't necessarily want to do that, but so that's why I didn't do that. But niching down at the beginning, it made it easier for me to show up because it's like, okay, I can really just give people free workouts. Yeah, this is what I do. This is my business, but going to purchase from me, the people that aren't going to get my coaching, it doesn't matter anyways. Let me just give these free workouts out. So
Mm,
that's how I started. I posted a ton of workouts, and then that evolved into, kind of noticing that it really, not that it didn't matter, but I could give you all the workouts in the world, but if you didn't have the mindset for it,
yeah.
you're not going to use them. So I started, kind of touching on some mindset stuff. And before you know it, like I've got 150 something days behind me. I started August 30th of 2025, posting every
Mhm.
single day on TikTok, Instagram, and I was doing YouTube shorts a bit more than I am now, even though I need to get back to it because that platform really rewards short form content. But yeah, after enough reps, you really kind of, for the most part, you lose your nervousness. Like, I was still nervous to post at the beginning as far as like posting my workouts because I had a bunch of people in there that, they know me from childhood or they know me from my bum season, when I wasn't working out, when I wasn't fit, when I wasn't, who I am now. So there was a little bit of nervousness, but deciding on the one bucket made it easy. I just show up every day, and after 30 days, you're going to either have to get used to me, the people that were following me, the voices I was afraid of, or you'll just unfollow me. Either way, it doesn't matter. And then beyond that, again, yeah, just showing up every day. Now, I will caveat this with social media is a big experiment. I'm not even a year into posting every day,
Mm,
but I have posted every day without fail at least once a day on Instagram and TikTok. And I've seen an insane amount of growth. But with that being said, there are some things that I do want to speak on from time to time that I get nervous to speak on simply because I know that my Instagram cross posts right now to my Facebook, and there's people on my Facebook from when I was 10 years old,
right.
you know?
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, for whatever reason, I maybe haven't seen these people in 2 decades, but there's a part of me that's like a little worried about what they're going to think if I say this thing, like maybe
And
I shouldn't.
and I'll say that I'll hit that with this too, is that for every 10 people that essentially will you think you're like, "Oh, man, what are they gonna say?" There's at least one person who's gonna say, "Dude, like, I needed that." Like, you'd be shocked at what people think, like the positive side of it, and it's just you have to really lean into that part of it too because I'll go to the gym and I'm just like, "Man, I posted a reel yesterday and I was doing" like, the first time I did socials every day was I created a TikTok in January of '25 to post cold plunges every day. I said, I'm going to do it.
I
Like, I have to do it. And I'm going to hold myself accountable to it. And doing that, people were like, dude, I see you like cold plunge. Like, it became like an identity part of me. But at the same time, then people would say, like, what are the benefits? And I said, I've never felt better. Like, I can't stop. It's whether it's placebo, psychological, whatever. I mean, the research is there, and it works for me, and I'm ready to attack the day full speed ahead. And
Yep.
all of a sudden, they're like, okay, yeah, I kind of want to try that. And guess what? Before you know it, they've got one set up at their house, and they're sending me sending me a clip, and I'm like, okay, you figured
Yeah.
it out. Like, I said, there's a community. I'm in a community on Facebook of like cold plunging every day.
Yeah.
and you can't stop. But for every time I would think and have that limiting belief, "Oh my gosh, what are people gonna say about me?" I just had to flip the switch, reframe it, mindset, right? To what if this changes one person's life today? What if this helps one single person get through that one thing today? And the limiting beliefs are instantly erased. So
Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
for
awesome.
us, like you said, I mean, we're coaching this, we're not putting billboards out, you know, we've got to be
Right.
present. Got to have eyes on us. We've got to have attention, everything we do.
So dialed in my consistency, right?
Mhm.
Dialed in my fitness, dialed in my nutrition, my rest, my recovery, had everything for me personally as an individual dialed in. And then I picked up my head and realized I didn't have anybody around me. I had no connection, no community. And, I kind of identified this last fall. I would say like mid fall, October timeframe, September, October. And then I saw the event. Brian started advertising the event. And the day the tickets dropped, I was in the barber's chair, had
There
the
you go.
alert on my phone go off 5 minutes before the ticket dropped. I was like, all right, pause, jumped on the website, bought the tickets. And, it's funny because that whole moment turned into a big conversation in the barbershop about what I was doing, what event I was going to. And then that turned into all the barbers are talking about how much more fit they are than the other barbers and who could take who in a boxing match. And
Right.
they're getting ready to
Right.
set up a boxing match in the barbershop. Like
Oh my.
it was a hilarious moment. But anyways, I get to the thing that we got asked at the beginning of the event was, "Why are you here?" And then explore the why behind that why. And my why was crystal clear because it's kind of one of pretty much my biggest theme word for 2026, which is connection. And so my why was I wanted to connect myself with other people that were purpose driven and powerful enough to put themselves in the space.
Yeah.
Something I talked about when we were there is it's at least in my area, what I've found is it is difficult to identify the people that are getting after it the way I am. I'm certainly not an elite level athlete or anything, but I have my discipline and my consistencies dialed in. And if I'm going to spend time, I have a wife and a son. If I'm going to spend time away from them with other people, I want to make sure those people are pushing me. Like we're doing something. I'm not going to be your buddy that goes to the bar with you on Friday night and drinks until 11 or 12 o'clock at night and then wakes up feeling like crap the next day. Can't do anything with my kids. Can't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing that. And so I knew if I go put myself in this room, I'm going to make some connections. And my goal was to make at least 5 meaningful connections by the end
Mhm.
of the event. I was like, if I make 5 friends by the end of this event, it'll be a win. I think I left with, I think I consider about 15 of those guys now my friends, you
Easily.
know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
cool. Which is obviously triple what I kind of anticipated. I
Mhm.
really was like, it's just gonna be one day. If I make 5 meaningful connections, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. And I made much more than that. Something that really I love about the way they set this event up is, you know, hats off to Brian Pruitt and the entire team at Live Elevated. Starting the day off with a 5K is such a massive game-changing moment because I believe that shared challenge creates trust quicker than anything else.
Yeah.
We could have spent 6 months sitting around talking kumbaya, around a fire camp with some guitar. You cannot build as much trust with other people as you do in a 30-minute window of everybody pushing themselves physically.
Right.
Just doesn't happen. When you look to your right and your left and you see guys pushing themselves, they're running and they might be struggling, but they're not stopping. Instant trust builder.
Yeah.
Instant like, hey, I know you're somebody that's going to push yourself when, you're here, you're in this moment, you're sweating, you're getting after it. There's something about that that goes, I can rely on this person. Even if I don't know them super well, I have a sense that they're reliable.
I talked to Adam the same thing. It was like when we went on the summit in April and it was 15 of us. So it was a little bit more personal, but
Right.
nobody knew anybody. So it was kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? How did we get here? Did I make the right choice? All
Yeah.
the things. And it, we talked about it and said, every time we did some type of physical task or something new, we grew more trustworthy of each other, just like you're saying. We peeled back the mask a little bit further, peeled back another layer,
Yep.
and that allowed us to be vulnerable, to
Yeah.
discuss, to connect, and learn with one another. So that way we could, essentially become better. And like you said, I'm not going to leave my family to come back a worse person. I'm not going to go somewhere for 2 or 3 days to come back and be a jerk.
Yep.
Like if I'm going to leave them and leave my wife, 2 kids, and one on the way, it's because I know that this is an investment for me to be a better dad and husband for them.
Yep.
So being around it already, I knew. I said, I need this because it was like one of those times in life where everything just gets overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, I just need a little break. And that's all I needed to come back, cup fill, ready to go, ready to fill it up for them. And
Absolutely.
it's so powerful. And that's why we all connect so well. No matter what stage of life you're in, it's just empowering to see other people that way. And, I talked about this with Adam too. And, this is so common is imposter syndrome. How many guys there thought, man, I don't know, these guys are fit. This guy's pretty put up. This guy's got 1 million followers. I don't know if I should be here. I don't know if I even belong here. It, that's it's bogus. Like it doesn't
Yep.
matter.
Yep.
Everybody's leveling up. Everybody's here for the same mission and we grow together. And that's the
Yep.
whole point of it. And I think that's what Brian's starting to see too, how empowered he feels and realize overcoming that imposter syndrome. Because he says the same thing. He says, I can't believe 40 guys would show up and come listen to me talk and hang out
Yeah.
with me and work out.
Right.
And it's like, dude, I mean, you're the man, So
Right. Right.
100%, it's a powerful experience. It's
One of the guys that was there that I connected with, he's in his 50s. I want to say he's 50 or 51. I'm going to name drop him. Hopefully he doesn't get upset with me about this, but he said something recently on a phone call. Rob Caravolo, I may be messing up his whole last name there. This dude was a Navy pilot for 16 years and then went on to have his own private like flying company. I don't know exactly how to categorize it, but he had multiple private planes flying people all over the tropics for 20 years and then just retired from that company. We were on a phone call the other day and he's talking about wanting to get on socials. And one of the things he says to me is like, yeah, sometimes I think to myself, like, who would want to hear me say anything? And I'm like, you are, you
exactly.
were a Navy fighter pilot for 16 years. And then you went on to be the CEO of a massively successful company for the next 20. You have so much to offer. I mean, guys your age, guys younger than you, probably guys older than you. It's absolutely mind blowing. Like, so that imposter syndrome, it's wild to think it even sits on a guy like that.
I know.
You
I
know,
know. It's
it's
everywhere.
like I look at my life. I've done, in comparison's the thief of joy. So I try not to compare too much. But if we're gonna compare here, this dude's life story is incredible, and he's sitting there doubting himself.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
bro,
you
you
know,
have so much to offer. Please talk to the world.
right. It's just a matter of, it's a thought. Nobody tells you that. Nobody gives you imposter syndrome. It's just something triggered in our mind to tell us that we don't belong here. We're not good enough. We're not meant for this.
Yeah.
And it's not real. That's when we implement the systems, right? That's when we have the structures. Hey, what's my process for when these thoughts happen? Whoop. Hey, get down on a knee and start thanking God for everything you've got. Hey,
Wow. Nice.
just deep breath, do what you got to do. Think of the bright side and think about helping one person, right? Just
Yeah.
systems and triggers that we just build our whole lives around. So I know it's everywhere, no matter who you talk to,
Yeah.
you're never going to just say, oh, I made it. I figured it out. Everything's easy. That's just
Right.
not who we are. We can
Nope.
choose to think that we're going to make it easy, sit on our phone all day and say, oh, we had enough money till we die. We're good. But that's just not who we are as humans. We want to grow. We want to get better. we get fulfillment from helping others. So incredible.
Absolutely.
All right. So as we close out, so this has been phenomenal. What is one promise that you've made to yourself with your standards, your systems that you are doubling down on for 2026 that you're moving forward and connecting with? And you did mention, community and not being alone, but what are you telling yourself in terms of your growth, your consistency? What do you need to do for 2026 that you're ready to lock into?
I refuse to allow myself to sink into a place where I could become soft again, and not in a overly hardened way, but the soft version of me that's going to skip 2 weeks of working out, and then that turns into 3, and that turns into a quarter of the year, and then a year goes by and I haven't lifted a weight. The soft version of me that doesn't take care of himself, that eats like crap, that eats all the processed food he wants, and eats all the calories he wants, and doesn't care about what he's putting in his body, doesn't hydrate, has 20 coffees a day, 25 sweet teas, hasn't touched a glass of water in 2 months. I refuse to ever allow myself to be that guy again.
Yeah.
That's, promise number one. Promise number two is I'm going to put myself in rooms with amazing people as often as I can find the spaces that are hosting people that are getting after it, that are pursuing excellence. I'm putting myself in those spaces.
We're there.
It's because the reward that I found in the Live Elevated experience, and that was a day. That was one day. It was one isolated moment in time. I cannot imagine the benefit to my soul, let alone the rest of my life, from doing that consistently. Even if it's once a quarter, once a month, it's, I don't have to be in those rooms every single day. It's impossible
Right.
to do that. But if I can put myself in those spaces as often as possible, I know I'm going to grow and continue to develop into the best version of myself, which I like the Matthew McConaughey approach to that. I don't know if you've ever heard, always working for it. And then when you get there, well, your new best self is 10 years ahead of that guy.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much I'm capable of on my own, but the exponential amount of potential that exists when you step into a space with other people, phenomenal. I said it like this recently on a post. I said, there is no guarantee of an opportunity in a connection, but there is the potential. Without the connection, there's zero latent anything. It just doesn't exist. So by connecting, we put ourselves in the space for at least the potential.
Yeah. That reminds me, like you said, when people say, if you start something, you take the risk, there's a small percentage that it could work, or there's a small percentage that it does work, or I forgot, I'm butchering it. It says, but if you don't take the risk, you're guaranteed that it's not going to work. You're
Right.
guaranteed that nothing's going to grow from it. So
Yep.
I think of that
Exactly.
too.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Nick, this has been phenomenal, man. Your clients, your business, they're lucky to have you. You are, all around. You're in it with them. That's what we do as coaches. We're just maybe a couple steps ahead of who we coach,
Right.
but we're still in it, and we always will be. So this has been phenomenal, man. I can't thank you enough. And I'm going to drop all the socials into the description and connect with you. And looking forward to staying connected and getting after it, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. I love what you're doing. You're a rock star, dude. Keep changing the world, bro.
One day at a time, brother.
All right, man.
All right. Talk soon.
See ya.
That was awesome.